Welcome back to the CFB Paint podcast. We're here for our preview of week, was it 8, 9? I can't even remember now. But we're
Getting
just
up there.
excited. Huh?
So we're getting up there, man.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go over, review our win totals. Then we're going to be accountable for our picks from last week. And then we're going to do a little bit of a change. We'll share that with you in a little bit. But right now, we're going to go over our win totals. We'll share the screen.
While Corey's pulling that up, quick reminder, at the beginning of the year, we each draft 10 teams, hoping to have the highest regular season win total among our teams that we drafted. So maximum amount of wins would be 120. We're now 8 weeks in, so about half of the games have been played for most of us, a little bit over half, and checking in to see where our wins are at.
Yep. So in the lead, we have Brian with 55 wins. He's played only 64 games, so that means he's lost only 9 games this season. That's pretty impressive. We've got Steven next with 52 wins, although he's played significantly more wins than a few of us, or more games than a few of us. And then Steve at 52, Mark at 50, then I'm at 48. We talked a little bit last week about the undefeated teams. We're down to, I think it's 11, with Brian having 4, I have 4, and Steve has 2, or Steve has 1, and I think Mark has 2. So it's kind of crazy. Steve, your undefeated took a few hits this week. How do you feel about this last week?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's known, right? So, like, USC and Notre Dame played each other, so I was going to get a win there. I was also going to get a loss there. Mm-hmm. Louisville, that's a disappointing follow-up effort, particularly what you had the lead in the first half. Turnovers killed you in the second half of that game, and yeah, Pitt is always a classic trap game for, the ACC has this way of cannibalizing itself, and Pitt's happy to carry that tradition for another year. But again, Louisville, I'm making on schedule there. It's light enough through the rest of the year that, again, that late in the draft, I was thinking maybe 8 or 9 wins is probably what I'm going for, or what I can, optimistically expect that deep into the draft. And so I feel good about that pick still, but yeah, definitely lost them and USC as undefeated teams. I'm actually more worried about USC than I am about Louisville.
Yeah, having a couple more losses, I agree with you. Brian, do you want to go through your team a little bit this week?
Yeah, really, for my team, it's about those 4 that I do have undefeated. Hopefully, continue to take care of business, because we can get 48 wins out of 4 teams. That would be unbelievable. James Madison faces their biggest test, or perhaps their biggest test of the rest of the season, against Marshall this next week. Florida State will be favored in the rest of its games. Oklahoma will be favored in the rest of its games. They had a bye week this last week. Michigan's the one where I might pick up a couple losses if they're not exactly who we think they are come Penn State and Ohio State time. The reason I really want the top to stay strong is because Tennessee, yes, gets a win this last week, but now you've got Georgia coming up. You've got some of the tougher games in your schedule.
Bama.
I'm not sure how that's going to go. Yeah, you got Bama this next week. Ohio is starting to show a little bit more problems. That's my last pick, and that was always kind of like an iffy one. SMU has not looked as clean as I would hope against some of those teams to perform against. So I think there will be a couple of teams that don't bottom out, but need those higher win teams to balance it out. So I really need, my Florida States, my Michigans, my James Madisons to carry the team, because it's not clear cut. The middle of my roster isn't as strong as I would hope it would be.
Yeah, I think I'm sitting there with you. I have a very good high ceiling and a very low floor. I got hurt by some bad beats in this last week, with Boise State allowing Colorado State to go 80 yards in the last 2 plays of the game and throw a Hail Mary for a touchdown. And then Illinois kicks a field goal with no time remaining, right after Maryland had tied it with 1:40 left. But I'll take wins. I was surprised Coastal Carolina won. I don't think they were favored last week, so I'll take that win. And then Liberty's continuing to do well. Yeah, North Carolina, Liberty, Washington, and Ohio State all undefeated. All 4 teams looking pretty strong. I get the win, Washington versus Oregon, head-to-head with Steven, and then I have another head-to-head this week with Ohio State, Penn State. So maybe a chance to climb up out of the basement a little bit. It's weird that I'm behind, but I also have played the least amount of games, and so we'll see how it goes. when I finally catch up in the amount of games played. Look at Mark's schedule. This Miami and these Texas Tech games, our teams are kind of starting to look worse and worse and worse. But Iowa holding strong, and Utah without Cam Rising looked impressive. Maybe not impressive, but surprising. The fact they've won as much as they have. They averaged, I think, they've only allowed one team to score 13 points. Is the most they've allowed a team to score against them. Minus, I think, their loss. But
that defense has been impressive, and really, I mean, you mentioned Utah and Iowa. Iowa might be a sneaky 11-win team here. They have a path to it, and to get 11 wins out of an 8th-round pick, that would be a hats-off moment. Yeah.
But I mean, he's got a solid, the Mountain West leader in Air Force. You got Georgia and then Bama, who's looking potentially to win the West over there. Like, I mean, I've said the LSU's the best team. I don't know. We'll see. But then you have Texas, who's going to be favored in the remainder of their games. Although Kansas State and Kansas State and Wisconsin have been a little bit disappointing on that. So, I don't know. It's fun. We enjoy it. I love rooting for the teams that I don't expect to. Like, I texted Steven or Brian Wednesday night. I was like, hey, I opened up this week with 2 wins. The Rudy in Coastal Carolina. I'm happy about that. Can put that behind me. But we'll see how the rest of
it definitely makes the midweek games way more fun to watch because you're like, oh, man, I really need Western Kentucky to win this one.
Or you're like, we're like, oh, we really need Western Kentucky to lose this one. So But that's where we stand for the week. Let's quit sharing that. Let's go to our picks from last week. As we've done in the past, we've picked games. We pick against the lines, the overs, the unders. We made our picks, whether official or not official. We told you our official ones. We kept track of our picks. Let's be a little bit let's account for them. Brian, you want to start? How'd you do this week?
Yeah, I went 8-6 with 1 push. So Houston was I'll go wins, then I'll go in order of it. So wins first. Houston plus 2.5. I needed that Hail Mary at the very end of the game, the walk off, but got the trick done. SMU ECU, I took the under 50.5, nailed that one. Florida State, I took minus 17.5. They won by 38, so almost doubled that one. Florida plus 2. A lot of chaotic things that went into that one, but I got that one right. I came out on the right side of it, although I would have been happy to watch the Gators lose in South Carolina. TCU minus 5. They pummeled BYU. It was a 33-point win, I think, for them.
Yeah, 34-11, I think it was.
LSU minus 11. Got that one. Miami UNC over 56 is another W for me. Thanks to Miami pushing the score up and up. And I think it would have been, I think I made it before the third quarter ended, actually, or fourth quarter started.
30-something to 17.
Yeah, it was a 72-point overall game. And last win was NC State and Duke under 48. My losses, I took Arkansas, Alabama to be over 48.5. I think it was 24-21, so like 45. Georgia, Vanderbilt hurts. I took over 57. They hit 57. So that's brutal. Kansas, Oklahoma State under 58. That's a loss for me. Louisville minus 8. They lost. So that was a significant one. USC plus 2.5. Wasn't close. Lost by 28. And then Wisconsin minus 10. Almost like half my losses, at least, were me choosing the team that didn't win and saying, hey, they're going to win by even more. And then my one push is Oregon plus 3. On the wrong side of that one, but by approximately the right amount. So get my money back, but no winnings.
Was Oregon plus 3 or was it plus 2.5? I had plus 2.5 down.
Well, I love the idea of that.
I have plus 3.
Oh.
You might have found a better line than me. I'll stick with my push because that's what I thought I was betting on. So, but I'll let whoever's next take over with their.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, let's do kind of that like what they call like the compliment sandwich, where it's like, hey, you're really good at these things. These are the things we need to improve. But remember, we really like that. So here we're in the meat.
We didn't do that. Okay, but
Oh, well, no, we may have still. We may have still because I went. Let me count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I went 2 and 7 with a push, if I just counted correctly. So remember that heater we were on? If you were wise, you're like, this is not going to happen forever. I should just go again. George Costanza, do the opposite of what Steve's going to do. In the last couple of weeks, you would have made a lot of hay. So losses: FIU +1 versus UTEP. No, that game was not close. UTEP went on the road and beat FIU pretty handily. I think that FIU maybe made it a little bit interesting toward the end, but a little bit interesting meaning like within 14 points at one point. Not close. Alabama versus Arkansas over 48.5. No. Georgia versus Vanderbilt under 57. No, it was 57 on the nose, and Georgia had to score a touchdown with 2 minutes left to just make it look better.
I was
guess.
just hoping they'd go for 2 for the over.
Gosh. So South Carolina -2 versus Florida. Felt like that one got the rug pulled out from under me in the end of that game. The BYU TCU under 52. No.
Oh.
I know. So many of these where it's just like I didn't. Again, I felt like that was a good play. Who knew that TCU's backup QB was going to be throwing dimes all over the place? Oregon +3 at Washington. That was my push. Louisville -8 at Pitt. Felt okay about that one until the wheels came off in the third quarter. Miami UNC over 56. Now, this is the one I felt the best about. So, like, again, if I was an actual gambler, that probably would have been several units. Like, I probably would have been pretty heavy on that one. Over, and that one hit. USC +2.5 versus Notre Dame. No. Caleb Williams, I think, threw more touchdowns for Notre Dame than he did for USC. That's a problem usually. And then Oregon State -4 versus UCLA. That one cashed. So, yeah, the Beavers at home are a different animal. So that was
so
it.
what was your record again? You said.
Sorry, I think. Let me count it up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was 2, 7, and 1.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Yeah, it was a rough week.
But you would put several units on that Miami game, which would offset you.
I didn't say that though, so that doesn't count.
Retroactively, we know. If you paid attention last week, you know I took action on every single game last week. Now I went 12-12. I started off 1-5, so I'll take the way it ended. I'm not going to go through all of them unless you guys really want me to, but it's up to you guys.
Give some highlights. What were some ones you were really proud of?
Oh, proud of?
Or disappointed that they you felt great about it and at the end you lost it.
Yeah, the fact that Colorado, I picked Colorado -11.5 and then over 59. I was like, they're on pace. This is going to be great. They'll win, whatever. No. Florida State, Syracuse, I had over 56.5. I just did not see Florida State's defense shutting out Syracuse like it did, and that kind of put me off guard. One I'm proud on, even though I told you guys I was betting on Cam Rising playing, Utah still covered against Cal. I'll take that.
Nice.
And that they hit the over, which was 45, which is kind of a gutsy thing without Cam Rising there to hit the over. Picked Oklahoma State against Kansas. I missed on the Louisville one. I got the LSU, Auburn. I got Miami, UNC. But then I also, with you guys, sided with USC over Notre Dame. But I did pick the over, so I got 1-1 there. Then I missed on Toledo. This is the second week I've bet on Toledo to cover. They have not, so I'm not touching Toledo anymore. And then I thought A&M would do a better showing in Tennessee, but Max Johnson kept throwing the ball to the other team, so it didn't happen. I did hit the NC State versus Duke under as well, though, for 48. It was not even close. It was 35, I think, total. But yeah, so about even. So this week, in order to kind of make this a little bit more of a consolidated segment, is there anything else you guys want to say?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have it here, but as soon as you said it, I think I made a pick on that Texas A&M Tennessee game and also lost it. So, in the name of being fully accountable,
2-8.
2, 8, and 1 push.
So, in order to make this a little bit more, just maybe more concise, we're going to do picks straight up for a lot of the ranked games and some of the big games that are not ranked. And then we're going to have each of us have kind of picked out 6 locks so that we don't dig too much into the numbers for our fans, as probably our fans are not as much, into the betting scene. They're a little bit more casual than we are. So we're going to work our way through the schedule time frame wise. We're going to stamp ourselves like Steve always does, 11 o'clock on Monday night, so that our picks are locked in. If there are any changes, can't be held accountable. But let's move our way through the schedule and then make our selections, who wins, who loses, and potentially why. Let me pull up that piece where I've got that. All right. Well, the first game we're going to start with is we decided we were going to take any of the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday games, although that would make it interesting. We're just not sure when we'll get this podcast out, so let's not even worry about that. Let's talk Penn State, Ohio State. Penn State goes into the Horseshoe is it noon? It's like 11 o'clock their time, I think, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, who you got, Steve?
Nittany Lions. I think they're gonna win the game. I feel better about their defense than I do Ohio State's, which I think is fine. It's a good defense, but I like Penn State's better. I think offensively, they really haven't shown many weaknesses outside of maybe pushing the ball down the field a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this team's ready. This one's one I'm doubling down. They're also on my team, so I have rooting interest in them. But I don't know. This one feels like if not this year, then you just got to start asking when. If you're a Penn State fan, so.
I 100% agree with you on that. Brian, what do you pick? What's your pick?
I'm going the other way. I'm going Ohio State. I think this is a close one. I think home field advantage matters in it, and I think with the amount of resistance that Ohio State's defense can give, will force a little bit more from Drew Aller, and that won't necessarily cause interceptions, loads of problems, but I don't know if he's going to be able to make the plays that are necessary. So I'm going with the Buckeyes.
I am also going with the Buckeyes. I, like Steve, think it's like, if not this year, then when? But I do feel like that receiving core is crazy. Just can they get the ball to them? And their defense is – I think Penn State's defense might be better than Ohio State's defense, but I think Ohio State's offense is going to be better than Penn State's offense. And so I don't expect this to be a high-scoring affair, but we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. Oklahoma – or Central Florida goes to Oklahoma. Brian, who you got this time?
Oklahoma. No explanation needed.
Yeah. Steve?
I'm right there with him. I'm on OU. This was almost one of my locks to have Central Florida cover the spread.
Oh, really?
Have we seen Oklahoma face a running QB? I just think it presents some different challenges that I want them to see. They faced Emory Jones. That was a close game. And again, if Emory Jones could throw worth a lick, that game could have been even closer. But give me the Sooners to win the game.
There you go. I agree with that as well. All right. Air Force goes to Navy. If this is Ken Niemato to Lolo's Navy, I might go for Navy, but Air Force just looks so good. I'm picking Air Force to win. This is a great team out of the Mountain West. It's kind of fun to watch. Steve, what do you got?
Yeah, the Falcons. I low key think they could go undefeated. They just show up every week and they take care of business. And again, I don't expect anything different.
Yeah,
right.
Clean sweep. I'm going with Air Force. We've seen a few teams that have jumped up into the top 25 and immediately get bounced out. I don't think Air Force is going to be one of those teams.
No.
Staying power.
And in reality, they should have been up there a long time ago, just because they're Mountain West team. They weren't given their respect. All right, Mississippi State at Arkansas. Brian, not a ranked match, but who do you got?
I've got Arkansas. These are both teams who really need a win and have had hard times. Arkansas has played Alabama close. They've played LSU close. There's one other game I'm missing, but they've had some close games against good opponents. They're finally going to get a win against a lesser opponent. Yeah, give me the Razorbacks.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to jump on that one as well, the Razorbacks. But we'll see. I mean, they've had some letdown games against BYU. So I'm thinking the Razorbacks. Go, Steve.
Woo pig. Yeah.
Right. Arkansas across the board. All right, Washington State goes to Oregon. Does Oregon have a letdown game? Brian, I think it's your turn.
They do not. They might have a little bit of a letdown, but I don't think they lose it. Give me the Ducks to get back on track.
I want to believe Cam Moore can bounce back from a little bit. He's been struggling the last 2 games, but yeah, Dan Lanning, I have faith in. There's a reason I picked them to beat Washington, and they looked good there. I'm going with the Ducks.
Yeah, Washington State has scored 17 and 6 points in their last 2 outings, and 6 points at home versus Arizona. Going on the road to Eugene is much worse than playing home against Arizona. So, no, give me the Ducks. They bounce back. They get back in the win column. I think that the big difference here is that they know there's no margin for error now, so they'll stomp teams when they have the chance to. This is one of them.
Tennessee rolls at number 17. Tennessee rolls into Alabama, number 11. Do we have a repeat of next year or last year? And now I'm going to say yes. Joe Milton finds a way to beat that defense, and they are able to contain the deep threat from Alabama, and I'm picking Tennessee to win.
I think Tennessee covers. I think Bama wins. There's no river to throw the goalposts in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, exactly what I'm thinking is if this were in Neyland, I think I'd go Tennessee. I expect it to be close, but I'm going to stick with the Crimson Tide.
All right. Oklahoma State rolls into West Virginia. You know, the Fighting Greens. What's his name?
Garrett Greens.
Fighting Garrett Greens. Because Steve loves him. Shout out to Lawton Childs. Hi. Steve, let's start you off.
How much magic does Oklahoma State have is the real question. The 2 wins that they've put together that have started this run were both at home. Now you got to go and face a West Virginia team looking for a bounce back. Tough place to play, not an easy travel. I am going to go... I think Oklahoma State's rounding into form, though, so I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win. It's expected to be a pretty close game. I am dying to see it. Would have preferred this. This is a 1:30 Mountain Time kick, 3:30 Eastern. Would love this one to have been a night kick. I feel like that's a really good environment, particularly at night. But I think they go on the road and get the W.
Brian.
If you listen to our last podcast, you know I'm all Oklahoma State at the moment. I'm not going to abandon them now. Oklahoma State keeps it rolling. They're getting 9 wins this regular season. It's happening.
I am very surprised that we were all in the same boat on this one. I really expected one of us to pick West Virginia, but no, I'm going Oklahoma State. I think Gundy's kind of figured this team out a little bit. And at one point in time, the ball's got to bounce back your direction, and it was so bad leading the first little bit. I think it's coming back their direction. All right, South Carolina at Missouri. Who went first on this offense? Steve did. So, Brian, who you got?
I'm going to go South Carolina. I know Missouri's the better team, but it was just, I think about the end of last year when Shane Beamer got things going right, and things just finally clicked. You know, it's a funny shaped ball. Sometimes it bounces odd ways. I'm going with the Gamecocks.
So I was going to go with the Gamecocks, but I just to mess with Josh Pate because he listens to us so much. He's been very adamant about Cocktober. The Missouri.
I think that this game is interesting because you've got really good weapons for South Carolina passing the football, and Missouri has been susceptible to that, particularly in the LSU game. And so I am curious to see what that matchup looks like, but I do feel like Missouri is the more complete team, and they're at home. Give me the Tigers.
All right. We move on to the ultimate points matchup between Minnesota and Iowa. In case you don't know, the line's like 32 for over-under. It's low. So I'm supposed to pick first on this one. I mean, can you bet against Iowa's defense? I'm going for an 11-win Iowa season. I'm picking Iowa.
I think they row the boat. I think that they do it. Give me PJ Fleck, and you know it will be a slugfest. But give me Minnesota to win 10-6.
10-6. There you go.
I'm going 9-0 Iowa, but I'm taking the Hawkeyes.
Well, 3-run homer at the bottom of the 8th to some insurance runs.
Yeah, I'm going 17-10, but a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown.
There you go. Yeah.
That's probably more accurate.
North Texas rolls into wherever Tulane is. Where
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
That's what I thought. Yeah, and tries to get a win. I think we start with who did we start with last time? That was me. So Steve's turn.
I don't know anything about North Texas. I know Tulane's a pretty good team, so I'm going to go with Tulane.
Yeah, as long as Willie Fritz is still at Tulane, I'm going to take Tulane over North Texas.
I think we're going to make that sweep across the board. You know, I have them in the win draft, so I got to double down on that. All right, Texas goes to Houston, who pulled off the stunner last week. Can they do it again? Brian?
No, they can't. Texas is going to win this one. Houston might cover, but even that's going to be a tall task for them. I got the Longhorns.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, I'm not sure that Houston even wins, like, the fans show up. Like, the fan, like, so, no. Sorry if I jumped the line there. I'm on Texas, too.
As am I, so it's not one that we were surprised on. So, all right, Virginia goes in and takes on undefeated North Carolina at home. Who are we first with? Is it me? No?
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I'm going to take the Tar Heels to cover this one, or to win this one. I think they're 23-point favorites in this game, and that's probably not even enough. Yeah.
It's not enough. I'll tell you that right now. I think Tez Walker might outscore Virginia.
Yeah, he probably will. He might double Virginia's scoring output.
Yeah, North Carolina for me as well. They're rolling too well right now.
All right. Ole Miss goes to Auburn. Somehow ranked Ole Miss at 13 goes into Auburn. Steve, who do you have?
Oh, I might need to punt on this one. Hang on, let me think on it. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for this one. My gut says Mississippi. Yeah, I'll go with Mississippi. All right.
I'll go ahead and take the Tigers. I'm a classic non-believer in Ole Miss. But then, like, the times where they get found out, and putting in air quotes, is they're playing Alabama or LSU or somebody who you think should beat them, except they did beat LSU. I just think somebody's got to get them at some point because I don't think they're that good. I'm betting on the Tigers for this week.
Man, I flip-flopped in the 2 minutes that you guys have been talking and flip-flopped again. I'm going with Mississippi, Jackson Dart, and the rushing game that they can have there that hasn't quite always been working out pulls out the winner. Texas Tech for our friends and family. Texas Tech goes to BYU. Steve, you're up. No, Brian, you're up.
It's a loss in Provo. Texas Tech comes in, and it gets a little ugly.
It's a 5:00 game, right? Does that technically classify as a night game?
Oh, inquiring minds want to know.
It does classify as a night game. I don't know if you guys saw the stat that got tweeted out that BYU teams are vampires. They're 26-0 or 27-0 in the last few night games. Yeah, they win again. Somehow they beat Texas Tech.
Okay, I'm gonna give. I see your stat there at night, and I'm gonna raise you a different stat. The one time that they've messed with the cougar tail, they lost going away to Arkansas last year. Did you know that they're doing bacon bits on the top of maple bars, maple cougar tails, for this game only? That's a bad omen. Brian was up first. It's also guns up. The Raiders are gonna win.
We know you're a Texas Tech fan, Steve. Michigan at Michigan State. I think Steve in our last podcast mentioned this is the night game on NBC.
I may have let the cat out of the bag on where I stand with this one.
I'm pretty sure we'd be crazy not to pick Michigan in this game. I mean, Mel Tucker is technically fired. Is that right? No.
Yeah, he's not there. He's fired now.
So
it's Harlan Barnett.
Yeah, even more Michigan then.
Yeah.
Steve, go ahead. You Michigan as well?
Yeah, I'm Michigan. Yeah.
Ryan?
Michigan.
Okay. Duke, with one loss, I think, this year to Notre Dame, rolls into Florida State. Will they have Riley Leonard? We'll see. As 14-point underdogs, which kind of surprised me. I'm glad I'm not picking this one first. Go ahead, Steve.
Give me the Noles. And a big part of this is I don't expect Riley Leonard to play. If he does, I still don't expect him to be 100%. I think if I'm Duke, I'm thinking if I'm Mike Elko, I can lose this game. If I win out, I still have a pretty good shot because I control my destiny because I play North Carolina.
Mhm.
So if I get Riley Leonard healthy, like I don't know if I want to rush him back and risk re-aggravating that injury that prevents him from being available for the home stretch where they play North Carolina, NC State, both for their last couple of games. So that's not just even with Riley Leonard. I think that I think there's some matchups that favor Florida State, particularly their wide receivers against Duke's secondary. Got to hold up at the line of scrimmage, and Duke's got a good defensive line. So this is going to be a fun one to watch, but I think the Noles.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Seminoles. I think a healthy Duke, and this becomes a very, very interesting conversation because of
Agreed.
what they can do. I think it's still interesting. I don't think this game is one you can sleep on by any means, but night game for the Seminoles. Yeah, they're going to take
Two
care
of
of
the
it. It's
best
gonna be a good
XL
atmosphere.
coaches that I know, Mike Elko and Mike Norvell. Going against each other. Does Florida State's 30-point win streak or scoring streak go down? We'll see. But I got Florida State winning as well. The line's 49, which sounds a little low to me if Florida State can hit 30, but we'll see.
When we get into our picks, I'll tell you just how low I think that is.
All right, Army, West Point goes to LSU. It's a pity that West Point doesn't have a passing attack, but we'll see. Brian, your pick.
Yeah, you'd really like one around the time you're going to play LSU because anything goes if you've got a quarterback with an accurate arm. I'm going to take LSU.
I, too, am going to take LSU. Steve?
Go Tigers.
Okay, real quick. Herm Edwards had Jaden Daniels. He had
Johnny Wilson.
Johnny Wilson. Who else did he have?
The Pearsall, Adam Pearsall.
Yeah, Pearsall out of Georgia. You saw that tweet then. And
I didn't see the tweet.
He had all three of those people at his school and couldn't make something out of it. That would have been an interesting and dangerous Arizona State team. But
yeah. Recruiting wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
But it was also the problem.
Utah goes into USC. It's my turn to pick, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
USC has on a 3-game losing streak to Utah. Cam Rising, I think, comes back for this game, and they still lose, and USC wins. Steve, go ahead.
Man, if I know that Cam Rising's playing, I feel like I've done this like 3 or 4 weeks in a row with Utah. I think it's a bounce back game for Southern Cal. I think that they're going to score some points. They're going to recapture the Caleb magic. But man, if Rising's there and you can just score any amount of points, your defense is going to get some stops. So I think this is a race to 24. And without Cam Rising, I don't think Utah gets to 24.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with USC. I think they're going to play with a lot of energy and heart. Like the motivation is going to be very high after what happened this last week. That's really embarrassing. And you've got these losses to Utah that you want to rectify. Like the Pac-12 title game last year, you thought you had till Williams goes down or gets the injury. He continues to play, but gets the injury. Still, I think it's close, but I give USC the edge.
Did you guys see that Lincoln Riley voiced over as Mickey Mouse?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, I'll send it to you. I'll probably just retweet it so our fans can find it too. Our listeners, fans. That's awesome of me. But it's just it's the same quote that he has, but just someone voices it over with a Mickey Mouse kind of and it's a riot because it's just I'm not gonna be able to recreate it, but he's just you guys expected us to have no adversity, okay? It's just really funny.
You did pretty well. I'll give your impression a 7 out of 10.
Hey, thanks.
Solid.
Did any of you guys catch the kid running up to Caleb Williams at the end of the game, Notre Dame game, asking him to see those painted fingernails?
Show me your nails now.
I didn't see that.
I'm seeing a video of
what did his nails say? Did they say what they normally say?
I can't confirm, but
Yeah.
They're always saying something, and they're never something a fan on
Usually
the other
starts
side
with
would be
F.
happy with. Yeah.
All right. Clemson goes into the very intimidating home environment that Miami has. 45 minutes off campus. I can't believe that they ride a bus to that thing. Anyways, Steve, I think you're up first with your pick.
I'm up first. Give me Clemson. I think they've had a bye week to reassess what they're doing offensively. They've had some struggles, but to me, I don't think they have to have a great offensive effort. We've seen now twice in a row where Tyler Van Dyke has thrown a lot of interceptions and thrown a lot of questionable passes. And Clemson's a better defense than North Carolina. They're a way better defense than Georgia Tech. And I think their defensive coordinator is good as well. And I think Garrett Riley, now that he's got some time to take a step back from what they've done in the first half of the season, will be able to tailor a game plan that's going to accentuate what they do well offensively, which is run the football and throw underneath routes, and maybe scheme up some deep shots for, is it Tyler Brown? Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a pretty impressive guy and can get the ball deep. So, but working out of the slot, that to me is a problem for Miami specifically. Their third and fourth corners are not they're susceptible.
And their safeties, they let them walk.
They freelance quite a bit. Something about going to make plays, but sometimes they run themselves out of the play trying to make a play.
Brian, who you got?
I got Clemson as well. I think in terms of a defense, this is going to be one of the better defenses Miami plays all year. The linebacker plays really good. The D-line's good. The corners for Clemson are very good. And the strength of this Miami offense, to me, is Colby Young. I'm trying to think. George, what's his first name?
Jacoby George.
Jacoby George and Xavier Restrepo. Those are the go-tos, and if you're able to find them, then Miami can move the ball. But if they're able to play, they being Clemson are able to play decent man-to-man with what I think are pretty strong cornerbacks, that's going to be trickier for Miami to do. I think they lose at home. 0-3 in the ACC.
Yeah, I don't think that they even have to play man-to-man because I think their defensive line will destroy Miami's offensive line and control the run. So they'll be able to drop 7, no problem. Give me Clemson to win. All right, Arizona State goes up to Seattle to play Washington. This Arizona State's had some heart. Do they pull it off? It's up to me. It's my turn. No, they do not. I'm sorry. This Washington team is impressive. I'm enjoying watching them. I'm enjoying seeing somebody other than the normal people that have been at the top of the Pac-12. So give me Washington. Steve.
Yeah. To borrow a quote from Rocky 2, he's all wrong for us, baby. Washington is very good where Arizona State is not good, and I think that's the difference in the game. That they'll look to shorten it and run the football, but I think we saw this last week that Washington's pretty game to play the run defense and to do it at a pretty high level. So yeah, give me the Huskies.
Yeah, I think if
I have not seen a single one of the Rockies. Brian, go.
I think if I were an Arizona State fan, this would be the game that makes me go, thank goodness we're going to the Big 12 next year. I'm going to go with Washington to win big.
Yep. UCLA goes to Stanford. Can Dante Moore and the clowns that lose again bounce back? For those people that don't know, that's what my father used to call UCLA because he was a USC fan. So, Steve, you're up first.
I'm up first. How much do I read into what happened last week? Did Troy Taylor find something? I think he may have, and I think their defense may have found something too. And Dante Moore has to go on the road. You think that Stanford's gonna, the fans? What I'm saying more is the students will reward that effort that they had on the road at Colorado and will actually show up for this game. Give me Stanford. I really want to pick this more against the number, and just have them cover the spread. But I'm going to go ahead and pick them and say that they win it outright.
Right. Yeah, I'm not quite ready to go there with Stanford just yet. We talked last show about how possibly Colorado versus Stanford were the worst two teams in the conference, and they're certainly in the conversation. I'm going to stick with UCLA. I think they stay ranked for a little longer before they, run into those upper echelon teams in the Pac-12.
And I agree with you, Brian. UCLA wins, albeit probably not pretty. So, all right, that is our picks for the week. Now let's make our locks for the week. Does anybody want to start with their locks? Should we go one by one, or should we give all 6 of them out?
I say all 6. Just run them down.
All right.
I'm happy to lead us off.
Head out, Brian.
All right, so 2 of them doubling up on Michigan. We got Michigan State. Michigan is minus 24.5. I think they win by more than that, so I'm taking Michigan to cover the spread. I'm also taking the over on 48 being the point total. I think Michigan might do it by themselves. So always a good time to beat a rival, especially when they're down. I feel like that's a really fun time. Anytime I've seen it happen on my end, I think Michigan fans will feel the same, and players will have the motivation necessary because, let's be honest, they haven't had a lot of reason to get up for a lot of these games. You've at least got the excuse of it's Michigan State to get up for this one. Steve, did you have anything you want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I wonder if we're on the same ones and we just chime in real quick and just say yes, Michigan minus 24.5 against Michigan State. We agree on that.
Gotcha. Oklahoma State plus 3.5. I took them to win, so this seems like a no-brainer. If they're going to cover, if they're going to win, so they've got to do it in West Virginia. Not an easy place to play, and it's one of the longer trips in the Big Ten at this point. But I'm riding with the Cowboys till they tell me give me a good reason not to. Clemson, Miami. I'm going to go under 50. I think both of these offenses will struggle to score. You're going over, okay?
No, I'm not going over.
I'm going under 50 on that one. FSU Duke. I'm taking over 49. I think Florida State will get 30 plus points, could be in the 40s. I don't think they're going to come close to shutting out Duke. Just with some of the struggles they've had with mobile quarterbacks. I know they did well last week against Schrader. The backup quarterback for Duke is pretty mobile and could cause some problems on the ground. So we'll take the over 49. And then I'm taking Utah. This is, I think, the worst pick. Utah plus 6.5 going to Southern California. I just think Whittingham a little bit has the number and will have enough there to cause some problems. And if you can have a player or two, you'll probably need more than a player or two, but a few that go right to get a little bit in Caleb Williams' head of, I've made mistakes against this team that have lost us games. It'll kind of be a here we go again situation. I think USC still wins, but I'm taking Utah to cover the 6.5.
All right, I'll go next. I have Texas going to Houston. They're favored by 23 points. I think they cover that. I think this Houston team is not that good, and I think this Texas team is going to pour it on. Virginia goes to North Carolina. North Carolina's favored by 23 points. I think they also destroyed North Carolina by much more than that. Clemson at Miami. I have Clemson. Clemson's favored by 4. I have Clemson covering that. Like Steve said, they're coming off a bye week. I think there's a great opportunity to put together a great game plan for this team. And you kind of going into this game, you thought this team was a lot better team than they are, and now you're seeing like some holes in them. So I think they've been paying attention to this Miami game. UCF at Oklahoma. I'm picking the under 65. I think Oklahoma's defense is really good. I think UCF isn't able to muster up as many points as they normally can, but I do think this ends up being like a 45-7 game or something like that, puts them in the 50s. So I think UCF gets held pretty bad. Tennessee goes to Alabama. I already picked Tennessee to win. I'm going to pick them to cover the 9 points. So if they win or if they don't cover, I still get one out of it there. But hopefully they don't lose by more than 9, and then I get hit on both. And then Utah at USC. I'm going to take the opposite side, Brian. I think this USC team beats them by a good 14 points. I think they're looking for some revenge. They've been beat by this team now. I think Caleb Williams has been beat by this team at least twice. The USC team's been beat, 4 times in the last 3 years or something like that, or 3 times in the last 4 years. So they get revenge, and without Cam Rising or even with Cam Rising, this team's going to be rusty. They're not going to be able to take advantage of the fact that USC's defense is not top caliber. We do know those backups have not been able to throw the ball very well for Utah. So
yeah,
those are my picks. Steve.
Yeah, had a couple on some games there. I just maybe it makes sense for us to just go 1, 2, and then 3.
Yeah.
Oregon minus 19.5 versus Washington State. Like I mentioned, I think Washington State's been figured out a little bit. Again, I think there's some talent on that team. That team plays hard. I think this is just a bad spot where Oregon's going to come out pretty angry, and if they have a chance to stomp a team, they're going to. So give me Oregon to cover it. It's a big line, but I feel like they're going to be able to cover that. Illinois plus 2.5 versus Wisconsin. They're at home. Wisconsin's with a backup QB.
Yeah,
I think the wrong team's favored. Give me the Illini. North Carolina. I let my opinion on this one already go. North Carolina minus 23 versus Virginia. Looking at this one, I think again, North Carolina is going to score quite a bit of points. I don't know if they get to the total. I almost wanted to double dip and do the under as well, just because I could see North Carolina winning this about 42-0. So I don't know if it gets to that 53-point total, but nonetheless, that's just like a maybe. Michigan minus 24.5 versus Michigan State. We talked about that one already. Texas Tech minus 4.5 at BYU. Did you know that in games against existing Big 12 conference players, oh gosh, dang it, I tried. I'll just run that back. Give me a second. Let me pull it up. I had it right. Yeah, had it right. Ready. So against existing Big 12 teams, like not new members of the conference, so the Cincinnati game is being pulled out. BYU's total points scored is 38. The total points given up by their offense to Big 12 defenses is 21. Like they've given up 3 touchdowns in the games on offense. Like offense throws an interception or a fumble for a touchdown, so they're barely beating teams when only those teams' defenses can score. So give me Texas Tech, the Red Raiders, go into Provo and get a win by more than 4.5.
Anybody going to that game? No.
No.
I thought about it, to be honest, but
well, so before the season, we were like, well, what game do we want to go? Because we'll probably go to 1 or 2. And I was like, do you want to go to a game that's a big opponent, or do you want to go to a game where you have a chance of winning? Because like, and we kind of listed out like in order of which ones. I was like, hey, you have a chance here. I did not. Again, I know Texas Tech hasn't lived up to every expectation, and obviously their quarterback and now the backup quarterback both being injured doesn't help. I don't know. I also don't know if it matters. So. But it was one of those that we considered, and I was like, Cincinnati is a much better choice of like you have a really good chance to win that game. Like by really good, I mean like anywhere between a 45% chance to a 60% chance of winning that game.
Yeah, them starting Emory Jones gives you a 25% chance before we know who you are.
Before yeah, exactly. Like before the plane lands, you have that. And then my final pick, I just something about this says this game's going to get squirrely and just going to go weird. I just think that Miami Clemson game is going to be wild. Give me the over 49.
Oh, that'd be fun.
I think well, Miami's going to get some points even if they're losing by 3 or 4 scores. Yeah, they're going to try and put what?
It's a night game. It starts at.
It is
6, 7.
I think six local time.
Yeah.
Or 8 local time, excuse me, 6 mountain time.
Okay.
I can see some shots being schemed up. I think Miami has exposed some weaknesses on their defense in the last couple of weeks, and no one better to take advantage of that than Garrett Riley. And I actually trust Miami's offense to score some points, right? Like, Clemson's a really good defense. It only takes 1 or 2 busts for a score to take place. And it wouldn't stun me if there's a couple of defensive scores in this one too. Like again, I think Clemson's a good defense. I think Miami can score anywhere between 17 and 28 points themselves. And at this point, I'm counting on Tyler Van Dyke to throw the ball to Clemson a couple times. So, and that will give short fields for Clemson to score. So I'm on the over.
Awesome. All right. Well, that wraps up our locks. Any final words before we get into this next week? Things you're excited about, Brian?
I'm just excited that Big Ten play finally starts. That's we've been waiting all year for it. We have the first game of the Big Ten this week. Penn State, Ohio State. What an exciting one!
Yeah, I agree with you. That is the game I'm looking forward to. Excited to see where it goes, and also excited to see like which of the undefeated teams fall this week because we've lost 2 or 3 every week. So and we have 11 remaining. So who drops? Steve?
No, I agree. It's like we're in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory now, and the kids are starting to get picked off. So, no, yeah, just pumped for it, excited. I think that you've got interesting games in just about every slate. Maybe the middle of the day for those people that need like a ranked on ranked matchup might be a little light, but nonetheless, yeah. If you're not satisfied with that, switch on over to that West Virginia Oklahoma State game and join us. Like, but no, yeah, just looking forward.
All right, that'll be it for CFB Paint Podcast. Please follow us on our socials. Tag us if there's a game you want us to cover. Let us know, and we're happy to do this. Talk to y'all later.